Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Xaereth Prevails, a Grand Arena story. I've got an interesting one for you guys today. Really tough match. Two Galactic Legends that I have to face. I'm recording from my phone because my computer situation is in transition, so back to the old format for one more episode. First, before we start, I do want to throw a shout out to my patrons. Thank you guys so much for all of your support. You guys mean the world to me. Really appreciate it. We're currently in the middle of Group 3, Match 2. We're in the semifinals. We're at 7-0, hoping to go 8-0. We're facing a dude named Scab Maggot, and that is one dude you never want to lose to, because if you lose to a guy named Scab Maggot, you can probably never live it down. So hopefully I beat this guy, though I'm not giving away spoilers right now. It is a very close match. He has two Galactic Legends, both of which are really strong. So looking at high-end relics, they have me completely destroyed, just like a Scab Maggot would. Completely annihilated, not even close in the top 3 type of relics. Roster, I have the same number of gear 13. He has me killed in gear 12, like 40 more gear 12. So I do have more Zetas, and I have an advantage in mods. Looking at our overall lifetime stats, I do have more than they do, the lifetime banners and most of the other stats, but you never know. Plus, this guy has 2 Galactic Legends, which I do not. So it's going to be a tough match one way or another. Now, looking at the deployment, I thought maybe I had caught a break. My opponent did not have any of the Galactic Legends in the front zones, though looking at Grand Arena history, it looked like maybe they just put them in the back zone. None of these teams really look super scary to me. And I do have Supreme Leader Kylo on offense, so I was hoping that if they didn't put one of their Galactic Legends on defense, then I'd be able to take out that General Grievous squad. Now, before I could actually do anything, my opponent started attacking, so we'll do a quick montage, see my various teams just melt. And in case you're wondering, all of these teams are just being one shot one way or another. I was hoping that maybe they were stumped on Geonosians, but sure enough, they did destroy all of my forces. 1901 is not a really high banner score, though, so I was hoping that maybe I would be able to just out-efficiency them, though I knew that if they had both Galactic Legends in there, it was going to be pretty rough to try to take all of them out. Front zone I think my opponent made a little bit of a mistake here and put 2 squads in the front zone that are not necessarily that good. Like, I didn't have to spend anything too crazy to get there. So taking first order here against this Newt team, and my buddy Klesso pointed it out in my last video, and I think he was right that if I just stunned Dooku right away, because I have a really fast first order officer, if I stunned him first, then everyone else would be visible and I could just kill the rest of the team really fast. So this Kylo team is really good. I did make a mistake here because I need first order officer generally with with my Supreme Kylo team, but clearly not working out for me there. I just kind of went in, and so I did stun Dooku, and then you see I have weapons tech on first order officer, or rather on first order executioner. So I went in and just one shot their Newt, and he couldn't revive because I have the weapons tech on him. And now we're just trying to we can't kill Jango yet because he's immune to damage. And so we're just trying to get damage onto Nest, trying to keep her 2 turns stunned so she can't be doing a ton of damage. And now I'm just trying to heal up everything. Most likely they're not going to take more than 1 more turn because Jango still has damage immunity. Now he doesn't have it, so so now I'm going from trying to do a ton of damage to just not killing them. But first order executioner gets to go. Jango doesn't get a revive because of weapons tech, so 58. And one of the themes of this match really is what decent teams on defense can buy for you. So in terms of like banners efficiency, my opponent's teams were all pretty well constructed and well modded, and so there were a lot of teams that are just really tough to tough to get max banners on. Now these Geonosians, I had a few different options here, but one mistake I made, or I don't know if it was a mistake, who knows how well it did, was I put 3PO on defense with Padme, and that meant that I had a way less reliable Commander Luke team. And these Geonosians are all relic, they're all really strong, well modded, and so I took Nightsisters. The expectation here is to win with 55 banners. That's not efficient, but my opponent did give me a little bit of space, so we're just trying to focus down at whoever we can, frankly. Like, you saw that I targeted Poggle a little bit earlier, and that was just because if I could get the just huge one shot on Poggle and take him out, then he wouldn't be able to dispel any of the debuffs, and I could just leave everyone stunned. Now, I did manage to sneak in a big hit on their Spy and take Spy out, and Spy is really the only damage in this squad, or at least the only massive damage in this squad. The rest of it is pretty easy. And one thing I'll point out about this match, like, there's not necessarily a ton of rhyme or reason. You want to stun everyone, you want to just control the area, control the pace, get Plague, and just let Plague eat away at them. But in general, like, the key to this match, you need Talzin as the lead if you can, because the potency is nice for stuns. And then also, if anyone dies, you can bring them back relatively easily. But then the other secret sauce to this match is putting the Zeta onto Old Daka, because Old Daka is probably not going to die here, and as long as she's alive, she's relic 4 or 5, she's got a ton of health. I think mine is at 128k health, and as long as Daka is alive, then she can revive the whole team. And so even though this is a pretty high relic Geonosian team, that I chewed through them relatively quickly, and 56 banners, that's decent. That means that Spy kept just evading from the foresight, and they never tried to focus her down, so that's nice. Got the front zone beat, and now we see that the Galactic Legends are both in the back, so gonna have to figure something out there. And I did have teams available to try to beat them, but I needed to clear the front zone first. Now, one thing to keep in mind is I'm really not going to have any kind of room for failure here. There is just no way. If I fail anything, I will lose immediately. My opponent scored an inefficient full clear, but at the same time, if I fail one and drop 20 banners, that is it. There's no recovering from that. I've already dropped 6 banners, can't drop more. So I'm taking my pretty standard at this point Emperor Palpatine with Sith Trio and Nihilus counter, or rather, and Bastila Shan counter. And one thing to point out here, my buddy NLB all pointed it out, and it's tough, but it happens. I put the Zeta onto Bastila Shan, and that made all of the droids go first, potentially because Watt he put his weapons tech on someone, and that caused B1 to assist, and that assist meant that I dodged something, and the whole team ended up going first. So that wasn't awesome. All of my guys took a few hits, but that's also acceptable. I did, between the last weeks, I got this entire team up to relic 3 or better. And in fact, they're all 3 except for Palpy, who is 7 because I needed him for Galactic Legends. And what we're trying to do here is we put the weapon, so the taunting tech was put onto Magna Guard, so I needed to counter that with Isolate on him, so we can't actually taunt. We need to get the shock debuff onto B2 as quick as we can, and then if we can stun Grievous. And what we really want to do, we want to make sure that Grievous doesn't take enough damage to go below protection, because then he'll start forcing taunt onto other droids, and we don't want that. We want to wait now until he is able to be annihilated, and if we can't target him, we can't annihilate him. So one of the really key pieces of this entire fight is Bastila, because of her huge suite of debuffs. Fear is really nice, and a ton of her other stuff is really nice, but the key one, other than maybe Stagger is actually a really underrated debuff. The key thing isn't the type of debuff that she does, it's how many she does on every character. So every time one of those debuffs expires for any reason, the entire team gains an extra 5% turn meter under Palpatine lead. So Bastila is just, she's basically the catalyst. She fears everyone, she makes everyone a little bit less capable of action, but then she's also capable of, I mean, she can ability block on her basic, and she facilitates this team working really well. So 57 banners, pretty good score. That's pretty standard. If you get less than that, that's unfortunate, but for the most part, 57, maybe 56 if you can't heal Scion's protection in time. And once Grievous is gone, then you can just take it out. Now here is an example of having high relics versus not high relics. So the first three, my Jedi Training Ray and the two droids, are relic like 1. And the guys in the back are gear 12 and gear 11. And they're good, but one thing to point out is all of these guys on the First Order team are super high relics. They are the 5 highest relic characters on this team are all on the First Order side, and so the Jedi Training Ray team is great at control, but keep in mind that it is just really hard to contain this First Order team. Now you see Finn got hit, and of course First Order Executioner just jumped all over that, destroyed his face, and now we're stuck with -3 banners no matter what our result is. We have no way to revive him, and we're just trying to play the control game. So stuns, we're trying to do various debuffs to different characters to prevent them from healing, especially the Jedi Training Ray special attack where she calls an assist is key here, because both of these Kylos are Relic 7. They're both really strong, and they're going to heal like crazy unless we put the Jedi Training Ray healing immunity onto them. And once we do that, though, then it becomes a pretty easy fight. Now, one thing to keep in mind here, so you don't get discouraged if you're trying this match, is Kylo Ren is just really tough to kill if he's not getting turns, because every time you hit him, he is stacking his defense, so your damage does less and less. Even if you have healing immunity on him, as I do right here, he's just going to be tough to take out. So you'll note that they're going in and out of stuns. We're trying to just keep them completely stun locked. We're also trying to use Illuminated Destiny as often as possible, and the Finn special, if he taunts, which isn't great, but these guys are both stun locked, so that's fine. If we can, we just want him to use that special because it heals 20% of his health and protection, or not just his, but the whole team's. And you see that R2 finally got up to max protection, but he was pretty low for a while. He took a couple hits, and so we're just trying to get that done. I didn't really... There's no rhyme or reason to who I took out first here. I wanted to take out Kylo, the original Kylo, because he had the most potential to mess me up banners-wise. But honestly, you probably could have done either. As long as there's healing immunity on either of these guys, it's great. If not, if you can't get healing immunity, if Executioner had somehow killed Jedi Training Ray, this fight would have ended up being just a loss for me, basically. I wouldn't have been able to kill either of the Kylos. So as it stood, I did manage to salvage it a little bit. 57 banners is still not great, but we got the clear, and I was left with a kind of shaky situation here. So normally I'd take troopers against this Nightsisters team, but I couldn't afford to risk a loss, and I also had this Commander Luke team just hanging out. I've never used Commander Luke to kill Nightsisters, except for maybe on my alt or something. Usually I want Watt here if I do something like this, so that Han can just go on a turkey shoot and there's no revives. But went undersized here because there's no one else to take. I don't have 3PO, don't have R2 available, and I need Luke to keep his guard. So went undersized so that we can get as many banners back as possible. And now we're trying to get a couple early kills, and once we get those, then we can. I kind of wanted to get all of the protection down on all these guys, so I could potentially just kill Nightsisters left and right. You see that Chewie got stunned, and things are not really looking that great. I managed to kill Talzin, kill Spirit. They were both dead, and then Oldaka got a turn, of course, and revived both of them, so that wasn't awesome. And remember that if any of my team actually dies here to one of their basic attacks, it will revive one of their characters, at least if that character is assisting from the Talzin lead Zeta. So did manage to eventually get things a little more under control. I couldn't slaughter the zombie like I normally do to get my health up. 57 banners, once again, not a 60. I know my buddy Klesso just called me an efficiency guy, and I have to say this is one of the least efficient matches that I've ever had. Or maybe not, that's not true, but I'm not getting 60s every match, that's for dang sure. So beat all the teams, have a really strong negotiator in the back that I have to beat. But first, I need to know. My plan has basically just been the same this whole time. I'm going to use Supreme Leader Kylo and his team to counter my opponent's Jedi training Rey, or rather, just her regular training Rey. She's still training in the movie, honestly. She's still training to be a Jedi, so not inaccurate to call her that, though in the game, obviously not as accurate. So one thing I pointed out earlier, still struggling, that I don't have first order officer, and you saw the aborted attempt earlier to figure out what I should take. And one thing to point out, this Jedi training Rey, this Rey, only has 2 Zetas, and I know that means that this team is less strong. I realize that they also don't have Finn or Poe, the correct ones. Like they they chose the original versions, probably to go with their Jedi training Rey, the actual Jedi training Rey. But I've done this match a bunch of times in arena. Honestly, it doesn't make a bunch of a difference if for this particular match. Probably if I'd used an off meta counter to be able to counter this, it would make a huge difference, though I don't know. You see that Malak just got one shot like a chump, just horrible. This Rey is Relic 7, really well modded, really tough, and she's just one-shotting my characters here. The important part, though, is just having Supreme Leader Kylo just stay alive and consistently doing damage. And so Rey really struggles to do enough damage to Kylo if Kylo is the only character around. And, this is all for non-ultimates. Ultimate Rey will destroy this team. And honestly, non-ultimate Rey also destroyed this team in a different way. 48 banners is just almost the worst you can get. I think that you can get 46 is the absolute worst. So really, really inefficient. And at this point, I'm feeling a little bit stressed out. Like all these other random lost dropped banners are really starting to bite me. And so went into this other match. This is the 6 Zeta Supreme Leader Kylo team under Huck's lead. Have my General Skywalker available for this, and what I'm trying to do here is we want to take out Hux as quick as we can, because Hux is going to control a lot of different factors in this match. Now I haven't had much experience with it, so I'm sure I played some of these things wrong. But one thing that's helping me here is my Skywalker is modded for a bunch of protection and armor, so they're not really chewing through him that fast, and I got a bunch of hits on their team before they could actually finish me. Now it wasn't really enough, obviously, but one thing I do want to point out here is they didn't go straight for my 5s. It initially looked like they were going to, but they actually ended up killing my ARC Trooper, and which sacrificed 5s, which meant I had a shot here. So wasn't sure which one I should do. I elected for Armor Shred here because then I could get the AoE as well. And now it's just like I hope we can kill Kylo before he just ends the rest of my team here. So no real rhyme or reason, just trying to do damage. And that was actually not a terrible result. 53 banners is just fine for this matchup, and I got the full clear, but with one shots, though it was pretty inefficient. So felt good to kill both of those Galactic Legends, and I've done a freeze frame here because it's satisfying to see them dying, but also just point out I needed a 62 to tie my opponent now. Doing the math for you guys, 62 to tie. If we tied, I would lose. He has significantly more GP than me, so I needed a 63 to be able to win, and after spending about 500 crystals in arena on refreshes trying to practice this match, I went with my pretty standard lineup here, negotiator versus negotiator, and there's a lot of RNG in this match, so I need to get lucky, most likely, though I do have a pretty decent methodology. So I got the hit on Anakin, then I did the AoE from Anakin on Houndstooth, and brought their Anakin below 40% health, right around, but I didn't land the buff immunity on their Houndstooth, which is huge. It's so crucial to get that so you can kill that Houndstooth as fast as possible. So didn't get that. My Ahsoka is on death's door, so I used the healing buff on her, and then brought in Houndstooth. This wasn't the ideal, or rather the fives, wasn't the ideal time to get fives in, but he did get an AoE off on two of their characters, not Anakin, unfortunately. And then, thankfully, their clone sergeant came in instead of Y-Wing. If it was Y-Wing, probably Y-Wing would have just came in and killed Ahsoka, and that would have just ended things. Clone sergeant came in, though, and that was one thing I was counting on. I think the game defaults to Clone Sergeant coming in if he's in the same lineup as Y-Wing, and my opponent has a 7-star Y-Wing as well, but I think that it just defaults to Sergeant. So Sergeant came in, and I was able to take him out without losing Ahsoka. I was able to get the loyalty buff or whatever on our undying loyalty on all of the guys, so that was timely because everyone was about to die, and then they would have died if they didn't have that. So I did manage to squeeze in an attack on their Jedi Anakin that felt great and took him out. Did an AoE on their Houndstooth, and I was just about to win when their Y-Wing did come in and taunted. We can't finish off Houndstooth. So I'm like, man, if he gets a big hit with his, if he gets his ultimate or something, I'm just sunk. But so far, all of my characters are still alive. I don't have reinforcements available, period. So this is what we get. And did a mass assist, managed to bring Houndstooth down, and then Anakin finished it off. And what do you know? 64 banners. So needed 63, got 64. A max score for this situation would have been 68 because I went in too undersized, and that ended up netting me a 2-point win against the Scab Maggot. And I've got to say, this was a pretty feel-good win for me. 2 Galactic Legends. I know that the Rey team was non-optimized. My response to it was non-optimized, but still feels good. I'll show you guys my defense. It was pretty haphazard. I've been focusing on fixing my computer. There are issues at work right now, so one of the reasons why my voice probably sounds a little weird, because I'm recording from my phone and not a computer. So I didn't have a ton of time to research this, though. I knew my opponent mostly went full offense except for his 2 Galactic Legends, so I planned for that, hoped for the best. My Akbar fleet has been doing some work, it looks like. I don't really know how many banners it netted me, but that was good, and I got the win. So we're at 8-0. We're 4 matches away from a perfect season, though. Granted, that is 2 potential finals that are going to be tough. My final round is always extremely excruciating. I hope that next time I do not swap mods right before lock, so that just doesn't screw me like it did last time when I went into the final round at 9-0. And then I swapped mods because of the Key Addy Monday mission and didn't have mods for my final round. Well, on Commander Luke, Darth Revan, Bastila, B1, and General Kenobi. I ended up losing one match there by 1 point, and it netted me an 11-1 season instead of 12-0, like I clearly deserved. Just kidding. But it was a pretty big downer. You know, who knows if I would have won the finals. That guy was pretty tough. So, anyways, glad to get the win here, though. And yeah, 2 Galactic Legends down, and my finals opponent does not have Galactic Legends, though they do have a very high lifetime banner score. So there is that. I am really hoping that I'll be able to do a live recording, the same, or at least a similar style to what I did last time. In my next episode, we'll see. I do have a laptop lined up to try to get something going. Like I said, we'll just see. So I hope you guys enjoyed this, even though it's not the cool new format that I've been planning. Hopefully everything settles down for me eventually, but until then, I just really appreciate you guys watching, and if you liked the video, I'd appreciate a like or a sub or a kindly comment or something. I don't know, or don't. It truly doesn't matter that much. I'm just trying to do like all the other YouTubers do, so just begging for likes. Anyways, I'm gonna let you guys go here, so stay tuned for my next match. It's going to be the finals. I'll have a video up regardless. Thank you all so much for watching, and remember that in all things, Xaereth prevails.